going, I would be diabetic. My career path took me primarily in the healthcare field, so I knew all about it. My degrees in biology, I knew all about it, and yet and still I was not doing what I needed to do. I grew up an athlete, and yet I had stopped moving. Life got in the way, right? And so I looked at that. I looked at where I was trending. And then with the awesome responsibility of being the president of 100 Black Men of Western Pennsylvania, we've been around for 38 years. We call it Real Men Giving Real Time. Black men at work in their community, particularly with our youth, doing things that create a better future for them. And it's on a volunteer basis. What, as a leader of that organization, could I give back to these men that are sacrificing their time and pouring into our youth? And so 2 or 3 years ago, I was at our leadership conference, and there was a gentleman named Pete Rome that showed up. And the 100's Health and Wellness Committee announced that they were declaring war on diabetes. And Pete was there speaking about it, and he brought up the men's room. Before he left the stage, I was up at stage and said, hey man, I need to know about this. I said, I've been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, and then also I need to keep my men around healthy so that we can continue to pour into these young people. That's my why of the men's room. The specifics of the men's room are, it's a CDC-backed program. So 65%, I believe, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, 65% of African-American men are walking around here pre-diabetic. 40% of them don't know it because we don't go to the doctor. When we go to the doctor, it's cursory. We don't get the right test done and everything. Or they tell us and we just don't pay attention to it, right? So the CDC, knowing this and working to prevent it, diabetes, created this program. They actually initiated it through the Black Women's Health Imperatives. So Black women, as usual, are ahead of us. They've been getting it done for years. They tried to do it with Black men. It wasn't working. So Pete Rome, the gentleman I spoke about, he was teaching that program and then converted it to be tailored towards Black men. It is a year-long program. We meet weekly. During the first 6 months, we meet every other week during the last 6 months. And for Black men to understand the power of this, Black men go to the barbershop, and that is their oasis. That's where they talk their game. That's where they talk about any and everything. They solve the world problems in the barbershop, and they come back out and they come back to the real world, right? They come back to the stress that we're under as Black men being in this country. They come back to the grind of making sure they're taking care of their families and everything. So everything they worked on stays in the barbershop. The men's room is that type of gathering for Black men. The key is it doesn't stay there. It links, it seeps into their soul, so they make these lifestyle changes and make it happen. I'm just not saying this because it's written that way or that's their goals. I'm saying that because I benefited from it. I've lost 20 pounds since we started this program in November, right? Chef, how many pounds have you lost since November?
About 17.
Chef is a diabetic. He's getting better control. Chef is back to powerlifting. Chef had his knee replaced, and I hope you don't mind, I'm gonna share this, Chef. So if you ever have to have a knee replacement, if your weight is a certain level, they're going to tell you we ain't going to do it. We will not do it until you get to a certain weight level. Chef had to go through that process in order to get his knee replaced. Now he's running around here like a kid. I think he challenged me to a 50-yard race. I'm not. So it works. We have a group of 16 men. How many of you know how hard it is to get black men into something and have them stay? All 16 men are still in it. We're almost a year in. As a collective group, our goal, the goal of the program was to lose each member to lose 7% of their body weight. We upped the ante to 10. As a group, the last report, and I'm gonna let Emmanuel say a few words about it because he's our lifestyle coach. We were over 150 pounds already. So we upped our ante to, as a group, collective group, we're gonna lose 200 pounds before this program ends in November. So it works. So if you're a black man and you have family that you care about, you have a why, right? If you're a grandfather, you want to see those grandkids grow up. If you're a father, you want to see your kids grow up. Or you want to see retirement where you can actually go out and do what you want to do instead of doing what you have to do. We need you to get in this program, regardless of where you think your health is. If you think you're good, we need you in there. If you know you have an issue, we need you in here. If your issue is not diabetes, but it may be heart, we need you in here. We're going to make a difference in our lives and then be able to come back and make a difference in our families and our communities because we're going to be healthier and better for it. So we're signing people up today. We need 20 to get this cohort started. We're well on our way. I think we have 7 or 8 already signed up. We have 2 or 3 signing up in the back now. To the ladies, I see more ladies here than I see men, as usual. If you have a black man in your life that you care about, come see me. I'm going to tell you exactly how to get him signed up. Young or old. Young or old. We need young men in here too, because our young men are the ones that aren't going to the doctors, right? Our young men are walking around here like time bombs and they don't even know it. So we need our young men in here as well. So very quickly, so I don't let our stir fry get cold, I'm gonna have Emmanuel Key come up and tell a few words about his position in the men's room and his success story. Emmanuel is a model of why we know this works.
Thank you, Al. Hey guys. So I'll be brief, and I promise. But for me, the men's room is more of a ministry, and I'll tell you why. In 2015, I was diagnosed with diabetes. And at the time, I felt like I was okay. I didn't feel like I was completely overweight. I was moving a little bit. But one of the things that we take for granted, which I've found to be more of an issue than anything, is the amount of stress. The amount of stress. I'm going to say it again. The amount of stress that we carry can also kick you into diabetes. And for the most part, if you're black in America, you put stress on your Cheerios in the morning because that's how it is for us, right? So anyway, the long and short of it, in 2015, I was diagnosed with diabetes. Today, 2024, I had a birthday yesterday. I am 30 pounds lighter than I was back then. And to be honest with you, I could probably afford to lose a little bit more. When I left college, I was only weighing 175 pounds. I'm weighing 200 today. I was 232 when I got diagnosed. There was absolutely no reason for me to be that heavy. But sometimes life be lifing. Life be lifing, and you're out here just trying to get it done, feed your family, and you can't figure out when you're going to get this workout in. So when you prioritize things, working out or moving or eating healthy becomes the furthest thing from your mind because you're trying to get it done. And that was my life. And I only found out because I was walking through the airport with customers. I worked in medical devices for the last 30 years. And I'm with customers, taking them to a training session. And all of a sudden, I couldn't read the signs in the airport. And I'm freaking out now, but I don't want to say anything because I just don't want to alarm anybody, right? So when I get back home, I go to my eye doctor. I'm like, hey, these glasses aren't working. I just got them 2 months ago. She checked my eyes. She looks at me. She said, Emmanuel, are you diabetic? I said, no, I'm not diabetic. She said, you should get your eyes checked. They've changed since the last time we talked. I go get my blood checked the next day. Boom, everything was out of whack. A1C was over 9. Glucose was out of control. Kidney enzymes were off the chart. Liver enzyme, I was a walking time bomb. Had no idea, but it was the stress. I sold medical devices, and in the last 24 years, I worked in the OR with the physicians. So as a sales rep, anytime they use my device, I needed to be there. Should anything happen, I was there to answer questions. But it was far more deeper than that, and I won't go into that. But anyway, the long and short of it is, one of the benefits of doing that job is that I worked with vascular surgeons and cardiac surgeons. And with vascular surgeons, they see a lot of diabetes, as do cardiac surgery. And one of the things I was able to see and witness is amputations. I've seen people lose a toe, a foot, a leg. And so when I got diagnosed, I got scared straight. Anybody who grew up in the 70s know what scared straight means, because there was a movie or a show about it, right? So that was me. So I was shocked into getting my life together, because I did not want to get shorter by having people cut on me. I just didn't want to do that. So anyway, that's why I changed my life. That's my why. And I've had family members with diabetes. And so I just feel like it's more of a ministry, because I've experienced it personally. I've seen the effects of not controlling it. And for me to not share my story with other people is malpractice. And I won't do that. So anyway, that's my story, and enjoy the cooking.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Emmanuel. All right, make sure you share it with your sons, your nephews, your brothers, your male family members. And we're not being restrictive, because Flourishing Communities wants to help the whole family. So ladies, you're more than welcome to be a part of this as well. Now, you smelt the food. It looks good from here. I'm going to give the mic to our nutritionist, who you will remember is Ms. Judy Dodd. And of course, we have Chef A1, Chef Keith Butler, here with us. So let's receive them once again.
Welcome. We're glad to be here. And I'm so glad to hear that you're attacking diabetes. It's one of the issues that, as a registered dietitian, I spend a lot of time with. I come from a family with genetic diabetes. And guess what? I'm 84 and I still don't have it. Part of it is eating right. Part of it is exercise. And part of it is caring about the people you care about. Chef?
Oh, yeah. So it's an honor to be here, pleasure to be here. This is our second or third time here. We have an exciting cooking demonstration and some knowledge for you to take part in. She's fantastic. This isn't on a script, but we've been working together for about 3 years, and I'm amazed at her energy, her passion, and it's actually an honest to God blessing to be working with her. And we've been doing this for about 3-4 years. We go all around the city. We talk to senior citizens, kids, anybody who'll listen, with the goal of everybody educating on you are what you eat. Okay, you are what you eat. And that's so, so true.
And that's what we talk about: food, taste, nutrition, together. We have a recipe that we're doing today. You should have gotten it. It's called Cook Smart. If you don't have it, we have it. We'll give it to you. It's not a recipe to follow. It's a recipe that gives you a guideline for
That's
what
right.
you can start with. I also have some handouts over there, one on substitutes, one on foodborne illness. This is a big issue, especially at our age for many of us. How food is stored, where it's served, the temperature it's at, which is why the chef has a cooking under everything, or everything we had was washed and refrigerated. Know that nutrition is a part of your life, and know that it changes, but some of us are born with the genetics that make what we eat very important. And we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be bringing up some ways to control that blood pressure if it's high, that way to control that blood sugar. We can't eliminate, but we can control. And that's why we're concerned about food.
Yeah. And and one other thing about Al and Emmanuel, I'm actually part of 100 Black Men too. And they didn't tell you that guys are jogging up steps and we're doing sprints. And I mean, it's the comrade being together, just encouraging each other, which is huge, what they do. And there was a picture of him from about 3-4 years ago. We were at an event and I didn't even recognize him. He looks completely different. And when I seen that, I was like, man, I got to get moving. So, so we walk, we encourage each other, we text, and we can't help anyone if we're messed up. If we're all messed up, we ain't helping nobody. People be helping us. So we got to make sure we're okay before we go out and help the kids and help the community and all that kind of stuff like that, which is key. And these two brothers, I really appreciate, and that's another thing. So I really appreciate both of them because they encourage me not only with cooking, but just life and anything, anything every day. I really appreciate both of them. Okay, so today we're going to move on to our stir fry. We always think of an Asian type of stir fry. But today we're going to do like a different type of stir fry. A couple things. So
and some of us used to stir fry and we just said we fried it, right? I mean, you got to go back to the fact this isn't a new recipe. This is just a way now that we can make it with a little bit less of that fat that we used to put in it, which
Right.
of course helps to control your cholesterol, your calories, your diabetes. So we're talking health smart fats and very little of them.
Awesome. And there's another member of our team. She couldn't make it today. She's a medical student, and we're excited to have Miss Pooja here, but wasn't here today. She couldn't make it today. But so we have a dietitian, we have some medical, we have a chef. We got a lot going on, and the main goal is to educate everyone about healthy eating, and you are what you eat. Okay. Before I get started, I always got a couple tricks. I've been cooking for a long time. I got a million tricks. So a good way to put on your apron. My stomach isn't skinny. Okay, so not yet anyway. But
He's done better. He's really done better.
But if you take your apron and make a knot and tie it, okay, and then slip it over your head, it becomes like a bib. Someone showed me this, and I do this all the time. And it kind of folds back like this. Okay, and then it doesn't ride. Sometimes aprons get uncomfortable, so forth and so on. Now it's right there. It's a nice little neat trick. And I can actually be here all day with a bunch of tricks, but I'm not. Okay, so we're going to talk about this stir fry, okay? The stir fry is, I clean the garden out pretty much, okay? What I have is, and we're going to talk more in depth, but what I did was I went to Aldi's. I like Aldi's. I think the prices are economical. I think the produce is fresh. So I like Aldi's. So I went and seen what they had with nothing in mind, okay? So I do have some kale. This stir fry is going to consist of kale. My day, my Uncle Bob, we always put ham hocks. We cooked it for about 10 hours. And if it wasn't cooked for 10 hours, it wasn't done. However, as time has gone on, we've realized that kale can be eaten in a different way. And once again, the more you cook things, the more nutrition comes out of it. So people are sauteing kale, they're making kale salads, they're doing all different kinds of things with kale, and it's actually good. That kale is actually going to go into our stir fry. Do you want to say a couple words about that? About kale? You want to say a couple words about kale?
Oh, kale's a great, it's, you know, what kale has is fiber. And what we talk about a lot is when we eat food, we're getting calories from protein, fat, and carbohydrate. What we need it from the most, and this is different than most people think, is that carbohydrate. Why? Because that's the quickest energy. Your body can burn it fast. Yes, carbohydrate foods oftentimes have sugar in them, and that's an issue. That kale has fiber. That's a part of nutrition we don't talk about. I've got a really good handout over there on fiber for the simple reason that fiber is what slows down how your body releases the carbohydrate, the protein, and the fat. It's necessary. It gives you the stool that you want, whether you want it or not. It really prevents some forms of constipation. But kale when it's raw, is going to give you that. Cooked, it's still going to give you fiber. Fiber doesn't go away by cooking. It just makes the body better to use it. So that kale is high in that. It also has some iron and some vitamin C. Now, cook it too long, the vitamin C is going to go. But the fiber isn't going to go. And the nutrients, like a little bit of iron is in that too. Never thought of that. We don't think about the trace minerals that are there. When I talk about protein, fat, and carb, I want to make the point that carbohydrate is what your body burns fast. That's one of the reasons why when you break the fast by eating something in the morning after sleeping overnight, you need the carbs. Why do you need the carbs? Because that immediately gives you the energy you need. If you don't have carbs and you start using your protein, that's what's important for building and repairing muscles. Now that protein's not available anymore because it's going to be born, it's going to go first for the energy. Fat is important because fat gives you satiety. When you look at nutrients, that takes the longest to burn. So a meal without some fat, you're going to be hungry in 2 to 3 hours. So what you want is a percentage of carbs that fit your needs, some protein, but that protein should be protected because you're going to burn the carbs first, and that energy at the end from that fat. And this is why you talk to your doctor, your nurse, hopefully a registered dietitian. We need to personalize it. There's no one recipe for good nutrition. It varies.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we actually have sweet potatoes, and I always talk about, we laugh and joke how Uncle Bob, you're probably looking at me, he always put 5 pounds of sugar on sweet potatoes, and we don't need, they're already sweet. Okay.
Already have sugar in them.
They already have sugar in them, and we don't actually need 5 pounds of sugar on them. Another recipe I actually do with just sweet potatoes, I roast sweet potatoes, and I'll put peppers, and I'll put some thyme, and I'll put a couple jalapenos on them, and I'll roast them with a little bit of pepper, and it gives an awesome flavor. So we don't always have to make them candied. There's a lot of different things we can do with sweet potatoes. We can make soups out of them. We can make hash. I mean, and we don't need 5 pounds of then we got the nerve to put marshmallows on top of all that. So, but anyway, we're gonna put some sweet potatoes in here.
Well, and sweet potatoes actually have some iron. This is something that a lot of us need. Iron deficiency anemia is a major issue. It's especially important for the people who aren't eating beef, which is our best source, quite frankly, and who really are eating less meat. So sweet potatoes are going to give you some iron. That's a good thing to have. And if there's vitamin C there, which there is, your iron's used better.
Right, right. We got some chickpeas we're going to put in here. Anybody a chickpea person, garbanzo beans? The last 10 years, I think people are starting to eat them, on salads, and they're making cakes and things like that. An interesting thing you can do these days is we roast them, okay? So we'll put some olive oil on there, put some pepper on there, you can put some chili powder, whatever the case may be, and you can actually roast them, and they actually taste really good. Chickpeas.
And the neat thing about chickpeas is their protein. So that's, when you look at protein foods, it isn't just meat, fish, chicken. It's also your beans, your legumes, and something like these canned beans. Okay, these are canned garbanzo beans. If you have a high blood pressure, you say, oh, but Judy, that's high in sodium. Yeah, it is. Rinse and drain. It reduces the sodium by about 43%. So that's a good thing. The other thing is they sell lower salt ones. And you're better off buying the dry ones, soak them in water, and cook them yourself.
Yep.
That way you can control the sodium that's in them. But again, garbanzo beans or chickpeas, they make a great snack. They make a great protein. And for those of you that have friends and family who are vegetarians, good way to start.
Yeah, yeah. So that process when you soak beans is called a fermentation, and that helps them cook faster. So you can soak them overnight and help them cook faster. That's a cooking term, fermentation. When we soak the beans, helps them cook a little bit faster.
It also helps with blood sugar, Chef. One of the things they found that beans, noodles, rice, if you cook them ahead, let them cool a little bit. It turns the starch into something called resistant starch. Doesn't lower the calories, but it means you don't get a spike in your
Man,
blood sugar.
love
So,
that.
Cook it, cool it, rinse and drain.
Love that. And we're gonna that's a good leeway. So we have some brown rice. Anybody like brown rice? Brown rice person? Brown rice? Brown rice? Huh? You like brown rice? So what I did was I cooked this last night. And then anytime you stir fry, the rice can't be wet. So I cooked it, let it dry, and then it'll stir fry, because anytime you add moisture to try and stir fry, it won't fry. Okay, and we're going to fry this in healthy fats, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. But brown rice,
Brown rice is going to give you fiber. That's the difference. White rice is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good carb, but that brown rice has fiber. And again, it slows down how your body uses the sugars. So it's a good thing to try. And you know, if you don't need 100%, you can use half of your rice as brown rice.
Awesome, awesome. We have onions, okay? Our forefathers, onions, garlic, that was their medicine. Onions and garlic. We got to get back to that. And we were talking to, I think there was 100 black men. We were talking to the doctor the other day. We're not ever saying don't take medicine, but I don't know about you, but I'm trying to take less medicine. I ain't trying to take more. I'm trying to take less. So if we eat more garlic, ginger, cinnamon, those things, what is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it if it's going to help me.
Flavor
And plus they're flavor adders. So, you know, like I said, I argue with my doctor all the time, and I don't want to take that. And I understand I have to take it, but I'm not trying to take more. I want to take less. You know, so I eat more garlic, ginger, cinnamon, all those things like that. And they, you know, and it is working. It is working. Actually, I'm a diabetic, like Al said. You know, I take insulin. I realize that I have to take insulin, but I'm not trying to take any more if I don't have to. That's just being straight honest. I mean, I want to take it, but I want to take as less as possible.
The research is out there, even though it isn't evidence-based, that cinnamon may help to lower your blood sugar, okay? It may help. Part of it might be because you're using less sugar because the cinnamon is replacing what you would have added before. But the research is out there, and it's something that we're looking at. Definitely turmeric is right there. It's showing that some real possibilities for lowering inflammation, which is what causes some of this osteoarthritis, etc. And he mentioned garlic. Garlic is one of the oldest ways people gave themselves nutrition. That goes way back in biblical times. Garlic is a tremendous addition to a food, but you're better off if you chop that garlic and let it be exposed to air, or learn to roast it and use it. Don't just chew on the garlic cloves raw. Your breath,
How many like garlic?
Your breath is going to do it.
You like garlic? Some
Yeah.
people, you know, I've been cooking for a long time. Some people think there's no such thing as too much garlic.
Well, what I do is I take the clove of garlic, cut the top off, put it in a little bag of foil, put some olive oil on it, and roast it. What you end up with is roasted cloves. Those roasted cloves can be kept in the refrigerator. That's a glass jar with a lid, okay? You can just pop that roasted clove out and add it. You're shaking your head. Have you done that? It's great on bread. Good way to make garlic toast. Spread it out. It's good. And as the chef said, there's some nutrition there. It's not going to be the best nutrition. It's going to give you flavor, so you're not adding a lot of salt, a lot of fat.
Right. So good stuff, good tips. We're going off to a good start. Carrots. I love carrots.
High vitamin
and
A.
actually-
Vitamin A.
Yeah, I actually teach at a culinary school, and the students were making spaghetti sauce. I used to work with this Italian guy. Instead of adding sugar to his spaghetti sauce, he would add a carrot.
Yeah.
He would add God's sugar to the spaghetti sauce. Instead of adding raw, he would add a carrot to it, and it would give it that sweet taste.
And you
Okay.
can't eat the skin, guys. You don't have to throw away the skin. Wash, cut, ready to go. Even though a lot of those vegetables are sold without the skin, skin actually has nutrition beyond fiber. So using more of the skins makes sense.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I got some peppers. Peppers. I got yellow and sweet red.
Bell peppers,
Mhm,
right?
Yeah, got some peppers.
That's very different from hot peppers.
No, they're
Bell
not hot.
peppers are sweet, and when they go from yellow to red to up to green, the sweetest ones are really the yellow and the red ones, and it's a flavor difference. The chef, the last time I think we were here, you toasted those.
Yes, yes.
Good
yes.
way to go.
Yes, yes. Okay. We also have zucchini. Any zucchini fans out there? Zucchini, eggplant, yellow squash, any zucchini? It's a funny story, not to put her on the spot, but she had zucchini last night for dinner. She was telling me last night, and she was telling me how delicious. You want to explain to him what you did?
All I did was slice it down, and then I air fry. I don't have an air fryer, so I have an oven that's a convection oven. And what I do is dip that in breadcrumbs or crushed cereal, whatever you want, put it in a 450 to 500 degree oven. And I put Parmesan cheese on it too, because I happen to like the grated Parmesan cheese on it, and toasted it off. I'm going to finish that tonight too. I did the whole thing. The thing about zucchini, you can slice it lengthwise and use it lasagna. Yeah, it works, doesn't it? You can do roll-ups. We've got
That's
some
right.
recipes that are roll-ups with those strips. If you don't have the kind of equipment, just a thin knife will do it. Is that what you use, a thin knife? It's great. Skin is edible, guys. There's nothing wrong with that skin. If you really get rid of it, you've gotten rid of fiber, and you've gotten rid of some nutrients that are right there embedded in that skin. Zucchini and eggplant does the same thing.
That's right.
Eggplant can make really good strips. Eggplant, if you're going to work with eggplant strips, cut them and then press the water out. Put them in the refrigerator because they give out a lot of liquid. And then use that in your lasagna. Use that as a roll-up. Again, this is the season for eggplant and zucchini.
It is.
Again, good nutrition, good ways to give people other flavors.
Awesome, awesome. To piggyback on that, you're seeing spaghetti squash, you're seeing zucchini shredded, and they're using that in place of the pasta. They'll make a meat sauce, they'll put it over spaghetti squash, they'll put it over all kinds of stuff like
The
that.
other day, one of our students brought up zucchini or squash, the squash the spaghetti squash. Has anybody bought spaghetti squash? Isn't that great? Spaghetti squash is great. And the best way to cook it, wash the squash, put some holes in it, and put it in the microwave. Whole. Now you have to have some holes in it because it's going to explode otherwise.
Right.
When you get it out, then it's going to be all shriveled down. Slice it down, open it up. The seeds are edible, but take that fork, and what you have is pasta, right?
It looks like pasta, yeah.
Looks like, and it's, again, low calorie, good fiber, good carb.
I'm signing up for that. So we got that. Okay, that's what I have, okay? But if you have anything different, why not use it? Anybody got a garden out here? Anybody got gardens? No gardens? Okay, maybe that's next year's project. That's one of my things as I get my journey to retirement, I want to have a garden. I don't have time right now, but gardens. You see it, which is pretty cool. You're seeing everybody. I even see kids interested in gardening. That's great. Inner city kids interested in gardening. That's awesome stuff, man. And hopefully, that'll continue to grow. Okay,
and there have been some real good taking old areas and turning it into hydroponic. We have some real good area people who are running hydroponic gardens, and they're using the kids from the schools to help grow it. And they're growing lettuce. They're growing greens.
Man, that's awesome. Awesome stuff. Okay, so we gave you a little education here. Any questions so far before we move forward? Okay, going to stir fry this in a cast.
Anytime you have a question, just
Yeah,
scream
we're-
out. If we can
we're-
hear you, we'll.
This is like family.
Whether I
We're-
can hear you is the
It's
issue.
like family. It's nothing, formal. If you got any questions, just raise your hand. We'll get to you. So, quick story, and I got a million stories. So I got this for $5 at a
That's
flea
because
market.
people don't want iron anymore.
$5,
What a mistake.
and
What a
I
mistake.
can barely pick it up. It didn't look like this when I got it. Okay, but cast iron. Our parents had cast iron. I remember my grandmother and mother. This was the fried chicken right here, fish right here. Okay,
Hey,
and
guess what? It was giving her some iron. One of the things they showed is that cast iron actually passed along some iron to that grandmother.
that's actually right, because when you cook with this, iron actually comes out of here and goes into your system. So take care of these pans, okay? They'll last longer than me and you are alive if you take care of these cast iron pans. And $5, and I can barely pick it up.
Unfortunately, you can't use them on glass tops. Unfortunately, most glass tops tell you don't use cast iron. Good. And then take the risk. That's what I do too.
So, but anyway, so we're going to stir fry this. In our main subject today, I'm not going to use any salt, okay? He's not using any salt. However, we got some tricks for you, okay? We always talk about how I think your husband sits down as soon as he gets his food, he puts the salt on there
My husband,
without even tasting
he salts
it, okay?
before he tastes.
Taste it.
But
We got-
the difference is my husband's genetics. He can eat all the salt in the world. It doesn't raise his blood pressure. I come from a family, you look at salt and my blood pressure goes up. So as a result, I don't put sodium in my food. And my husband sits there. He had an aunt who died at 103. Aunt Mary died with perfect blood pressure. She salted her sauerkraut when she came to my house for dinner one night. And I was getting blood pressure problems watching her. Some people genetically don't have to watch sodium. Those of us who have to watch it, it's any amount. And it's not from table salt, guys. It's from the additives that they're putting in
That's
food
right.
to keep it fresh, which is a good reason to buy organic, to buy your own, to read ingredients, and not add the salt until you taste it and you need it. Is there salt a problem? No, salt's fine. How much and how often, and whether your health can handle it.
Right, and everything is in moderation, as we always say. You can eat anything
Exactly.
in moderation. So my point being, I remember my Uncle Bob, like yesterday, being very, very, very sick in the hospital, and they said, man, you can't have no more salt. He was like, what? He's like, you're on a salt-free, it'll mess with your medications and so forth, but you can have all the lemons you want, you can have all the vinegar you want, you can put all the pepper you want, okay? And those are ways to give flavor without adding unnecessary table salt and those things like that. Quick story, he actually paid someone to bring salt in. The guy snuck it in like he was robbing a bank, and the guy came in with salt and gave him the salt. But there's other ways to season food, vinegars, oils, things like that. And what we're going to do today is I made a bit of this stir fry recipe, which is over there. And then we're actually going to let you taste. I've been working with some friends in the Strip District, and they have different vinegars and oils and so forth. And these are tools to increase the flavor of the food. I have a honey ginger balsamic vinegar.
Who likes balsamic vinegar? Yeah, it's a flavor adder, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And also have a roasted garlic olive oil, okay? So these are ways that if you're watching salt and things like that, we can hit it with a little bit of this. And I love to eat. I'm losing weight. I love to eat. And I can't eat food without flavor. I just can't do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why am I eating this? It don't taste like nothing. So these are ways that we can increase flavor without adding things that aren't the best for us. You know what I mean? So today, we're gonna give you a little, you have a couple plates, and my brother Emmanuel, I appreciate you. We're gonna give you a little bit of balsamic. We're gonna give you a little bit of oil, okay? We're gonna give you just a little bit of the stir fry. I'm gonna cook some, and then you're gonna taste maybe the rice without it, and then you're gonna add a little bit of balsamic on it, and you'll see how vinegars can change the game of what you're eating. You know, any questions so far? We're up here talking. Any questions? Any questions? We're like family, so it's you know what I mean. If there's any questions, raise your hand. Anything like that. So I believe some of you have
A plate with some spoons.
My brother Emmanuel, can I ask you one more favor?
Are they going to come up and pick
No,
up?
we're gonna.
Hey, Judy, while they're passing that out, you know, many of us grew up on our mothers and our grandmothers' collard greens. Can you talk about preparing those collard greens so they're healthier, so you actually get the benefits of the collard greens?
Sauteing them is the best way. That's the quickest way to get those collard greens cooked if you want them cooked. Don't you think so?
Yes.
You can also steam them and then add the flavoring afterwards. That's another good way. What you don't want to do is immerse them in a lot of water and cook them for a long time. That's the difference. As soon as it hits that water, you start losing nutrition. And so your best bet is saute them a little bit in a pan or a steamer. Some of us have those steamers. Is that how you cook it? Put it in a steam pan, put boiling water underneath it, and steam it. The other way to do collard greens is, frankly, roll them in a little bit of oil and toast them in the oven. They're good that way too. A lot of people don't understand toasted greens taste good, and it cooks them. So those are good ways.
Also, they're making collard green wraps. People are making wraps instead of using the bread. Brother Al, they're using the collard greens as the wrap.
Take the collard greens, and where it's tough at the stem, trim it down a little bit, and then just roll that up and fill it and roast it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got enough?
Do they get spoons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need spoons.
Well,
yeah. The better way to eat it is raw. And the reason being, the vitamin C is destroyed as soon as you do any of these other things.
Right, the more you cook something.
And the fiber is the only issue. So make sure you chew it, because what happens to a lot of us is we eat it raw and it comes out the same way it went in. Not the way to do it. Take the time to chew it. But yeah, salads raw, any vegetable you can eat raw, except tomatoes. Interestingly enough, the nutrition in tomato is helped by cooking, and helped if there's a little bit of oil present. So, and it's okay to have a raw tomato. It's just, I'm saying most of your vegetables are better off if you eat them raw and if you keep that skin on. Good question. Thank you.
Nice. Some more chef stuff. Okay, I love these burners because you can take them anywhere, okay? Fishing, camping, campgrounds. I can take it across the street. I don't need gas. I don't need electricity. This is run by a butane canister, okay? And you'll see these on omelet stations and so forth. And this is probably about $30 now or so. This can's about $5, okay? But to me, it's well worth it because when I came in, they like, you need a plug. Well, no, I don't need a plug because I got this. Okay, so this goes into here. Okay, that goes down. It lets off the butane. Boom. Okay. Awesome. Okay. I do a lot of omelet stations. I used to do a lot of omelet stations. We were at St. Benedict for years. We would do I'd have 500 omelets. I'd have about 5 omelet cooks, and this is how we did it. We had about 3 or 4 burners. One chef would have 3 pans, 4 pans, but it would have been a mess if I'd had to have electricity. So this is the way we do it with here, okay? Take this anywhere, We love it. We're actually, sad conversation, we were actually talking about electricity and gas. And she was saying that she doesn't really like it. She's old school, like with gas. And I'm kind of like that person too, because I can see it and I can adjust it, you know, all those kind of things like that. So we had a conversation with that. Okay. Okay. Whenever you're stir frying anything, you want to get the pan hot. Okay.
Show them what you're using as a stir fry tool, because that people don't know. Make sure your rubber spatula can handle the heat. Some rubber spatulas are going to melt. So make sure you got one that says it's good for heat.
Good point. And actually, this is a heat resistant spatula.
That's what it is.
Okay. So when you see this brown, it's not going to burn. But if it was white, if it was one you do for cakes, I set it on the side, it's going to burn up. Okay. So this is a little bit more, but it's well worth it because it's a heat resistant spatula and these don't burn.
The other skillet he has is one that's coated. If you have the old skillets and pans and you can see the coating has gotten scraped off, throw it away. There's more danger to getting that liner in you than there is to burning the stuff. Get a skillet or a pot that has one that can handle the spoon, or use the spatula like the chef uses.
Right. And we could go here all day, but whenever you're using this pan, you always want to use, you don't want to scrape it because it'll scrape the stuff off. I see students, they'll have spoons and metal spatulas, and not scraping the Teflon off here. So you always want to use this spatula on the surface, or you're going to scrape the Teflon off of here. Okay. Now the only other thing I did seasoning was, I like a little hot, so I got a little bit of Cajun seasoning, okay? But you don't have to add it in there, and Judy doesn't like hot, so I put just a little bit of Cajun seasoning, just for a little, once again, I'm in the flavor business, so I just put a little bit in there, but you can put just some black pepper. Maybe you want to put a little bit of onion powder, lemon pepper, anything like that. You can actually do that. So you're actually going to, what I want you to do right now is to, I want you to taste the olive oil. The olive oil. Not on the food, just taste the olive oil. Just taste the olive oil. Yes. Yes. Guess I should have told you that, huh? Olive oil. Okay. Healthy fats. Healthy fats, okay? The olive oil. It's a garlic, olive oil. That's okay. We got you. We got you. You didn't like it? Okay. It needs something. Right. And we were talking about salads and so forth, how people sometimes they're just spraying dressings on. When you go to a restaurant, sometimes I always ask for my dressing on the side because when they put it on, it's swimming in there. Okay. You just really need.
Let me give my tip. Best way to do a salad with less oil is chop up the vegetables, put your vinegar on it, let it sit in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes or more, and then spray the oil on. And somebody said to me, hey, Judy, I don't like sprays. You don't need to buy sprays. They sell little spray bottles. Put your oil in it, spray it on the greens so that when you pour those vinegar-soaked vegetables over it, it stays on it and you don't end up with a bottom full of sauce. And you don't need a lot of oil then. It's just a spray of oil.
Right. Awesome stuff. Okay. So we have our brown rice going in healthy fats in our olive oil. They actually make a whole ton of different olive oils. This is just the garlic one. There's a million of them, okay? And I really enjoy these olive oils. I think they add a lot of flavor. Olive Tap down in Strip District. Olive Tap, okay?
Bottles up here if you want to look at it.
Yeah, we have the bottle up here if you want to look at it. So go ahead and taste the rice right now. After you taste the rice, put just a dash of that vinegar on there. Try it with the vinegar.
We have more up here too. Don't
Yeah.
feel
Try-
free to come up and help
The
yourself.
point is to see how vinegar can change the taste of the whole game. Okay, maybe just a dash of that vinegar on there. So instead of you're at home, you got a bunch of salt and accent. We used to use accent at Uncle Bob's. We used to use MSG and so forth. Now we didn't realize that wasn't the best thing for us back then.
Yeah.
Even when you go to Chinese restaurants, so you're seeing no MSG. Okay, so vinegars, a way to add flavor to the food. Put a little bit of that vinegar on top of the rice, okay, and see how that changes the game.
And again, there's some research out there that said that fermentation of that vinegar is something else that might help with your pain in your joints. Again, might help. We can't prevent some things because genetically we were born with it, but we can help control.
Yeah. What do you think of the vinegar? So another trick we did, and I was telling Pastor, we took that vinegar and added a little bit to some water.
Yeah.
Okay, and it gave the water a little tangy, sweet taste. I love water, but I always have to have some lemon or something in it. So look, a dash of that vinegar in some plain water changes the game. Changes the game.
Chef, you didn't talk about the tomatoes, and you used these canned tomatoes,
Yep.
right? And again, from my standpoint, always read ingredient lists because it may have something in it you didn't think should be there. Always look at the fact that ingredient lists are listed in order by weight. So whatever's listed first is what's listed first. So if water is listed first, you're paying for water, okay? Look down the road and see if you can't pronounce the ingredient, you may not want to buy the food. I mean, that might be a better way
Emmanuel
to go.
says that too.
And the other thing to look for is look at the nutrition information, but look at the serving size because the nutrition only applies to that serving. So if you eat 2 to 3 to 4, you're not eating just one serving. You're getting 2 to 3, 4 times that. So be very careful that you read ingredients and you pay attention to it. There's a lot of stuff out there right now that's changing. And I want to be sure to give you the hint. Read the label even though it's something you bought before. Because companies are starting to learn they have to take things out. But they may be adding something in. And pay attention. Read what it is. And again, don't buy it if you can't pronounce it.
Right. So my time at Westinghouse, I taught at Westinghouse, I don't know, for 10 years. And I'll never forget this. But I would say, we're making spaghetti sauce today. Let's cut some onions. Let's cut some garlic. The girls, they wasn't with that. I was like, well, they said they smell like garlic and onions all day, so they wasn't really with that, you know. But what I tried to explain to them, onions and garlic are in a lot of foods in the background, and onions are actually sweet when you cook them. It's like a sweet taste. But as a kid, they didn't understand that. There's like...
Actually, Chef, onions are a sweet one.
Right.
Which is how much you use is a controllable.
Yeah, so we would always go back and forth first period because they didn't want to cut onions. I said, well, onions and garlic are in a lot of food. And they didn't realize that at the time. But so as chefs, we saute onions. It gives a little bit of a caramelization, a little bit of a flavor. There's tricks that chefs do. You're sauteing things. You hear that word caramelization all the time. This is caramelized. Those are fancy words that chefs use when we're cooking. You know what I mean?
The one thing I want to mention is this is Vidalia onion season. You only get Vidalia onions in the spring. They're worth it. If you see them, buy them. They're sweet. They're the sweetest one out there, and they will last in your pantry. Don't store onions next to potatoes, ever. Onions give out something that causes the potatoes to start sprouting. So always keep those onions in a cool, dry place, separate from potatoes.
Good. So if you wanted to add chicken, you wanted to add shrimp, absolutely you could. Maybe you had some turkey left over, whatever the case may be. Whatever the case, you can always add it to it. We didn't add any meat to it, but you obviously always add some meat to it. If you had
Although we're going to use beans, so
We could use
therefore
beans.
we're adding some protein
Tofu.
by adding the beans. Tofu would be a good choice.
tofu.
Yeah.
Any
tofu,
vegetarians in the
saute
house?
it down.
Anybody vegetarian? How long? Not to put you on the spot. How long
Yeah.
you been a vegetarian? I know that's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what do you do for protein? Just curiously. Beans.
Yeah, beans are a good choice, a really good choice. Beans, lentils, and again, they're great cold, they're great cooked and whole, make a great salad, but added to something like this, you just up the protein.
Yeah, and you're seeing more people go to the vegetarian, staying away from meat. I'm not here to down meat or say anything bad about meat or say anything about anything, but people are eating less meat, okay? And people are eating more vegetables and more grains and things like that. And even the plate, the recommended plate has changed. When we came up, 50% of your plate was supposed to be meat, and the other derivatives were vegetables and the grains and starches, but now it has actually changed right before our eyes.
This is the plate. The plate's going to change. This isn't how much you should eat every meal. This just gives you some idea of what the chef said. I need more fruits and vegetables than I need on the other side. Those fruits and vegetables are the least eaten food group in the United States, and yet they're the most nutritious. Protein goes with the grains. Why? Because there's a lot of grains that are good quality protein. And some of us, have you heard of quinoa? Solid. It's a full protein. It's actually not a grain, it's a seed, but it is a complete protein. There are that incomplete and complete means you got to have a little complete to go with an incomplete to make it usable as protein. But it doesn't require a lot, and a little bit of cheese on something will do the addition. Dairy products are going down, which scares me because dairy is one of our chief protein alternatives, and it's something out there that what we're finding, and this is something for those of us that are grandmothers, by not giving our kids this when they're babies, they then develop glucose intolerance.
Wow.
They then have problems later. And so there's the American Academy of Pediatrics is really saying, hey, have a full diet for your child once they go off breast milk, once they go off formula, and don't give up dairy foods because then they'll have problems. And that ice cream cone will bother them too, not just the glass of milk.
Man. A couple chef tricks while we got a couple seconds. But while I'm doing this, I want you to start thinking of questions to ask. So you always see chefs on TV being fancy, real simple. You always want to flip it and not toss it. You want to flip it back towards yourself. Okay.
Judy, dietitian, would use.
And then when you're doing eggs and things like that,
that.
when you're doing eggs and things like that, never forget my time at Westinghouse. We had them on the ceiling. Students were flipping it. It's stuck on the ceiling. If you throw it, you'll never catch it. Okay, so it's just a light flip. If you ever want to practice at home, you can use beans, popcorn, bread, croutons, anything like that. But I'm laughing because I remember one was stuck on the ceiling. It really was. She threw it up and it was stuck on the ceiling. But yeah, so just a light flip. And like I said, you can practice with beans, popcorn, croutons, any of those things like that. Any questions for us? We've been up here talking, and we're here to talk, but we want to answer your questions. Anything you need to know, anything we missed.
A silly question. If you don't flip, what can you do? Because I'm not a flipper. That's not gonna happen.
Spatula.
Okay, just a spatula. Thank you.
However, if you think about a restaurant, we got a chef never does one thing, okay? A cook never does one thing. There might be 5, 6 pans, so that's why they got to flip. And I tell my students, if you do one thing in a restaurant, well, guess what? You're probably not gonna have a job. If you can only do one thing, you're probably not gonna have a job. Okay, you got to have 3, 4, 5 orders come. You got 4 or 5 orders going at one time. If just imagine if a cook was just doing this, they're gonna send you home. Okay.
I'm not in it for the show. I never flip. I just use a flipper.
Yeah, but as far as our thing, you can actually use your spatula. But why not? And we're in the show business, okay? But when you do that, people look. They're oh, that's nice. You know what I mean? So cooks and chefs, we're always showing. Even when you go to the Hibachi Grill, that's a show. So even this is a show, you know. So flipping, nothing wrong with practicing. Maybe you got, like I said, if you got 2, 3 things going at one time, you can flip, eggs, all those things like that. Go ahead.
I have a question about foods that cause inflammation, and why should we avoid them?
Inflammation.
I didn't
What
hear
do you
what
want
she
to
said.
know about?
Well, sometimes you hear on TV certain foods that cause inflammation. What would be an example of that?
There are some foods that increase inflammation, and it's true, but the research on that is pretty low. And what it comes down to is how much and how often what you eat it with. I will be most happy to send you out a list of foods that cause inflammation, and the chef and I will give you a place where you can send your question. I look more at anti-inflammation, at things that bring it down. And that's where the chef's talking about turmeric. That's where the chef's talking about the way you season things. And that's where you go with more vegetables. One of the big unfortunately, is beef, meat sources, which is one of the reasons why we're pushing more of the plant-based protein. On the other side of it all, there's some things out there that say it reduces inflammation. The research hasn't proven it. It's more of a product than it is an answer.
Cool stuff. What was I gonna say? Oh, one thing I did forget to tell you. I had some broccoli, and this is only pretty much my only vegetable my daughter, who's 34, she ever eats. But I took some broccoli and I roasted it. I made florets. I tossed a little bit of that olive oil and I put some Parmesan cheese and some pepper and I roasted it in the oven. So you can actually roast broccoli, roast cauliflower, just some different things, different techniques. God bless my mom. She's been dead for 9 years, but I always tell this story. Whenever she cooked broccoli, she cooked it for about 2 hours, okay? And we couldn't pick it up. It was falling off apart. But that's back then. They cooked everything a long, long time, okay? She didn't realize you can just roast it. You can just roast it, maybe with a little bit of cheese or something, and it's delicious. Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts is an interesting thing. My brother, who's 10 years younger, he sat at the table for 6 hours with 6 Brussels sprouts. Back then, you had to eat what was on the plate. If you didn't eat it, you sat there. He sat there. Okay, and she said, I'll give you anything you want else, but you have to eat those Brussels sprouts. Back then, they boiled them, okay, and they were slimy and nasty and all that stuff like that. And he sat there. I found out years later, he actually threw them away. We put them in his pocket. But Brussels sprouts. We didn't roast Brussels sprouts back then. We boiled them. We boiled the heck out of them, and they were slimy, and they were nasty, and they were not good. Try roasting your Brussels sprouts. Try roasting some of your vegetables.
I roast my Brussels sprouts. I cut them in half, spray some oil on it, and do it in the oven, and they are great.
Yeah, delicious, delicious.
I have a question.
Air fry, yeah.
And if you don't have an air fryer, if you have a convection oven, pay attention to that little oven that you bought, you think toast. Some of them have a convection feature and you don't know it. That's the same as an air fryer, and it's cheaper.
Wow.
I have a question about the carrots in tomato sauce, do you shave the carrots?
No,
or
we
do
just
you
put them
cut
in that way you can take them out. So just some big cuts, and you can just lift them out.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. And actually, like I said, carrots are sweet. And we're Italians, and I was blessed enough to where they don't like sugar in their tomato sauce. They don't play that. They don't. If you tell Italian sugar, and they're gonna look at you sideways. They don't put sugar in their tomato sauce. That's like an American thing that we. I don't know why Americans, we put sugar in everything. You know, we like everything sweet, including wine. Over in Europe, they don't really like sweet wine, but Americans, we like everything sweet. We like sweet wine. You can just put them in whole and let them boil and just lift them right out.
Yeah.
But why not puree them up? And you that way you can use them and use them up. And get the fiber out of them. But you can also take it out and puree it up in a smoothie or whatever the case may be. But we don't throw anything away, Al.
No.
So you can actually definitely puree those up and do a lot of things.
Once you pick them out, slice them down and serve them as a side.
Serve them in the side, whatever the case may be.
Egg.
You
Yeah,
could.
You're
You
absolutely
could.
right. You're absolutely.
You could. You absolutely could.
You're right. You're right. The other thing is those carrot tops are nutrition too. You can use those in salads. You need to wash them off and slice them down. But they should be fresh from a garden, guys, not something that's been carried around for how long.
Any questions for us? We're here to answer questions and anything you want to know, maybe not know, or we can help you with, or because I actually have this script here that I didn't go verbatim by, but how many of us want to live a little bit longer and be a little bit healthier? I know I do. So we're just trying to give you tools to do that. We're trying to put some stuff in your tool belt so maybe you can live a little bit longer to help our kids, grandkids. I want to see my daughter grow up to be the best she can. So these are tools that we use to try and do that. And like I said, we talk all the time, which is very, very important. An interesting thing also, we do good mood, good food too. Food affects your mood,
That's
how you
right.
think, which is if you look in other countries, how they feed their kids lunches that are healthier for them. Kids are learning faster, less violent, they're having less issues. So we got to get on board with all
Tell
those
them
things
about
like that.
the chia seed pudding.
Oh, chia seed pudding.
Yeah.
Anybody like chia seed pudding? Healthy. Comes out like pudding. You put some milk on it. It's like an overnight oat. They call it overnight mother's oats, overnight oats. Very good. People are doing that. They're putting some honey in there and some fruits and things like that. And those are ways that our kids can leave out of the house or grab something in the morning without eating those Pop-Tarts and all those things. We're never saying, no, don't eat Pop-Tarts, but we shouldn't be eating them every day.
We've got a granola recipe over there.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So the other day we had the students make some granolas. We're just trying to change the game, to be honest with you, on how our kids are thinking, acting, how they're learning. We're just trying to change the game.
I want to answer a question we got the last time, just in case for some of you who weren't here. And that's, Judy, I'm going out and I'm buying Mediterranean salt. No, don't. It's a waste of money. Don't bother. Salt is salt is salt. I don't care if it's kosher. I don't care if it's sea salt. I don't care if it's Morton's, whatever. Sodium is going to raise your blood pressure from any of those. It's the amount. And the difference is that some of these salts, you're getting it in crystals. The way to add salt is at the end for flavor.
Yes.
Not at the beginning of the cooking. Why? You want the flavor from it. Other than baking, there's no reason to have to add salt to food in the beginning.
Good point. Good point. Students that, like I said, teach at the school, they'll make a pot of soup, season it up, okay, and then it reduces down. Now it's salty. So reduction is a way to increase flavor in food, reducing things down. A pot of sauce this big, It goes down here. The flavors condense. Those are another way of adding flavor to food, condensing things, cooking them down. Yes, Brother Al. So, oh, okay. So, like I said, we always add towards the end of seasoning. And I think you're going to find out you're going to lose a little bit less than what you need. Okay. Another interesting thing that I realize that people that don't eat salt, when they do get salt, they taste it right away. It's like, that's salt in it. And, going back to Uncle Bob, who I loved dearly, is I remember no one really cared. They knew about it, but we didn't really give a darn. We really didn't. If it was salty, okay. We ate everything a little bit salty. Just thinking back, and we used a lot of accent, okay? And we used seasoned salt and all those things like that. And we didn't really care about, the focus was on the taste. We didn't really care. We cared, but we knew, but we did it anyway, okay? And what I see now is people being more mindful of the salt and fats and just all those things like that.
Let's use the example of soup. If you follow a recipe and it tells you to put in so much salt, how much of that recipe boils down as the soup is cooking so that you end up with less broth, but you still have the same amount of salt you put in it at the beginning. That's why the chef and I are saying, add it at the end, taste it. Does it need salt? Add it then.
Good stuff, man. Any questions? I think we can go here all day, to be honest with you. But any questions? Pastor Welsh, what you're doing is amazing for the community, for the church, for the kids. Keep doing what you're doing, man, because you're going to change the game on how, the community is our health, okay? And like I said, Pastor Welsh, we want to help everyone, but if we're jacked up, I'm not helping nobody. The kids will be helping me. so that's any other questions, comments, concerns, anything you'd like us to do. We'll be back in another month or two. Anything you want us to do, talk about in more detail, we can. We're open to anything. And when we're not here, we sit around talking like this all the time. I drove her here and we talked. This is how we were talking the whole way over here. So go ahead.
I want to do meal prepping, so the things are already prepping. So what would be like maybe the best way, the easiest way, whatever?
Got it.
Doing some healthy meal prepping for that. You don't have to cook every day.
I know, that's right.
So I don't know if you can help show like next time.
I sure will. Can I share a story too, Pastor? So one of my church brothers, he said, look, I can't control the weather. I can't control traffic. I can't control people's attitude, but I can control what goes in my mouth. Okay, and I said that, I was like, man, that's deep. He's like, if I meal prep every day, I can control what goes in my mouth. And meal prepping is huge. It's picking up, and people are doing it. It makes a lot of sense. You have it portioned, you have it ready, and you're not grabbing anything. You have it all planned out. So meal prepping is huge, man. That's a huge
it helps to make more than you need and freeze part of it, which is one of the reasons why we give glass jars. Ball canning jars are the way to freeze that extra sauce, freeze that extra soup, freeze those extra things. Why? Because they can be put in the microwave, they don't burst, and you can take it from your freezer and be ready with that chili that you made last month. So that's something to meal prep.
Yeah.
All right, let's thank Chef Keith Butler and Judy Dodd. They always have wonderful information, and as you can see, there's more here. So if you want to eat some more before we leave,
take a little vinegar and help yourself. So.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are not familiar, and those of you who are, let me just remind you that you can go to, please share. I forget how this works. So pages you like, I think, and groups, or I don't know, but look for the Flourishing Communities Facebook something and like it. because every time we do this, we put the information out there, and so you'll be aware the next time we're going to do this cooking seminar. And feel free, definitely share it with other people that you know. This is not just a 6 Mount Zion thing. This is a community thing. And so I want to thank our nurses, Stephanie and Lori and Cynthia, and for Karen back there from Highmark for taking our glucose and blood pressures and cholesterols. Everybody doing all right? Nope, we don't need to call the paramedics for anybody, do we? All right, some days. All right, well, thank you all again. And don't forget, just come in and get something to eat before you go. So thanks, Chef.
All right.
Take a bowl home with you.
There's some vinegar, whatever the case may be. Hope you learned something.
And this place is called Olive Tap.